Guys, I cannot do this by myself, and I do not want to do this by myself, and you would never listen to only me. So I'm really happy and proud to have this fantastic submatter experts here sitting next to me. I'll give them a quick minute to introduce themselves, and after that we'll have a very amazing and cool keynote presentation from Carlos. So Marilia, if I may start with you, a quick introduction, please. Thank you.
Is this working? I get it.
Yes.
Thank you. My name is Marilia Farias. I'm a managing associate at VDA, which is a law firm based here in Lisbon, but has offices in all or almost all Portuguese-speaking countries. We do have a large ICT area, and this is why this matter is so important to us.
Okay, thank you so much. Arthur?
Arthur Mendes, Sales VP of Angola Cables. We in TIS Submarine industry for now 11 years, and happy to be here to share the panel with these distinct ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you. Welcome.
Hello, my name is Nadia da Costa Ribeiro. I'm a lawyer at PLMJ, which is also a Portuguese legal firm based in Portugal, also present in most of Lusophone countries. I am with PLMJ's law TMT practice, and I've been in the telco sector for 20 years now. I've also worked with operators, network operators, and I mainly work with regulatory issues and digital.
Okay, thank you. Welcome to you as well. Jose?
Hello, I'm José Barcos. I thank you, Carrier community, for this invitation to be here. Thank you very much. And I'm an advisor for submarine cables, and for the time being, I'm pretty much involved in JTF Smart Cables, Portuguese Quantum Institute, and also helping Portugal DC as an ambassador. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jose. Carlos?
So my name is Carlos Paulino. I'm in the IT industry and mainly in communications for almost 30 years. First in a telco.
3, you said, right?
3-0.
Yeah?
3-0.
This is zero.
Yeah. I will say 13 next time.
That's what I understood, right? 13, right?
Initially in a telco, and then in 2000 launching the first neutral data center in Portugal. Currently as the main director for Equinix in Portugal, and really connected with all the world of the subsea cables for more than 15 years. So when we started really to expand all the cables to the data center and bring them in to really have the neutral environment for everybody to connect.
Okay, thank you very much for sponsoring this session anyway. And guys, by the way, 2 lawyers in the panel. 2. You know what it means? Shh, don't say anything. Sorry, 2 female, but you cannot say female anymore, right? It's not. Oh, yes, you can. Oh, sorry. She made her point. 2 female lawyers, you know? So everything what you say can be used against you. You know this, right? So when you think about a question, think twice. Okay?
Just can say he.
It, what, have, yeah, exactly. So kicking off the panel in this way, Carlos, please, what are you going to talk about? Because you're going to do a keynote speech for us, and do you know what we're going to talk about?
Yeah, absolutely, about the demand in Africa and why it's happening, and
Okay.
the truth is why is Portugal the right place to really help Africa?
What do you mean by why?
It is, but I will say
Right? 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 There you go. You see, it works. So,
thank you. So basically, we'll cover that part, and now Equinix is also helping on that road.
okay, cool. The floor is yours.
Thank you.
And happy to hear, watch, see, listen, and also the people, being online at the webinar live. They're listening to us, so let's behave twice. Oh.
Okay, so I hope I won't be too annoying. The deck is quite large, but I will try to pass on all the boring slides and just go to the important points. So basically enhancing global connectivity with submarine cable infrastructure in Africa. Okay, I just need Africa demand. I collect some data about Africa. I will not go absolutely on all this slide, but the truth is the internet is global, but is not equal distributed around the world. And Africa continent stands today as one of the areas where more improvement and growth potential really exists. 39% of the African population have access to internet compared with 63% all around the world. And the truth is, this gives us an enormous digital growth potential. Currently, 17% of the world population is in Africa, but only 1% of the data centers. This really shows the mismatch and all the potential that we can see for the next years. The truth is, we are already seeing, and for instance, only in connectivity and bandwidth, we are seeing that the compound annual growth rate is now surpassing 45%. It's an incredible figure, and it really shows that we have the demand skyrocketing and more people connecting. I have some data there I would leave for you to read after, but some interesting figures. And I'm just mentioning Nigeria because Nigeria was one of the first countries where Equinix entered in the African country. And we are talking about a total population of 206 million and to expect to double to 400 million by 2050. So it's a complete different market. Currently will surpass the population of the United States and the number of users of internet of the United States quite quickly. The growth of internet subsea capacity is there, and we see that it's really new cables being developed, and more we see that it's one of the most attractive places to invest right now. The numbers show it by itself. We are establishing, of course, internet capacity growth in most of the points where we are developing interconnection points like Lisbon, Barcelona, Genova, and Milan, and Bordeaux. And new submarine cables arriving, as we just heard this morning, so to Africa, finally connecting to Lisbon, and again already in service, really a full different landscape of what we had before. We'll show a little bit Portugal Subsea Cable Hub, a digital highway to Africa. And the truth is, since the beginning of times and communication, something like 1870, we had the first telegraphic cable really interconnecting Portugal and putting Portugal on really what would be the story of global communications. In the present, we have currently around 11 cables landing in Lisbon and connecting approximately 91 landing stations in 62 countries. Now to Africa going to full operation, we will see these numbers really going up. I leave this slide. There are now a sequence of 4 slides that I believe are quite important, a little bit to see what exists, what is the legacy, and really what is the new age cables in service or plan. So we have a link already connecting with a full different trajectory and going to Latin America. So for one of the first time real capacity crossing the Atlantic on the south side. Equiano already working also to Africa, just being connected as we speak, and new projects that have been already announced and will really bring the capacity in Portugal to numbers never seen before. And it really is, in my point of view, one important, all the important infrastructure that would really not only develop Portugal, but really serve Africa and really build the future. There was always in our history some difficulties between Portugal and the Central Europe. The costs were high. It was difficult to connect. The truth is, this historical trend of being too expensive is really changing. And you see there Most of those graphics, all of them are public, so they are on the web. But basically, you see there quite a number of network service providers that are extending to Portugal and building the terrestrial connectivity that really enhances our capacity as that corridor to Africa. That's quite an interesting statement from Brian Quigley, VP of Global Network Infrastructure of Google. He says basically, and I truly believe that it's not only because our geographical strategic location that we are having this success. The truth is there are all the country investment on the digital transition, and I put there some numbers that really show quite an impressive achievement, being in human resources, being in most of the development indexes where Portugal really has a very interesting position. Coming from the data center and with the last difficulties around Europe in what regards with power, the truth is Portugal is also very well positioned, and the energy transition is really showing a full different Portugal, very more early adopter of some technologies, investing a lot. And currently Portugal is among the 20 nations best prepared for energy transition, meaning that bringing sustainability in the entire ecosystem. From a digital corridor to a main hub to serve Africa, this is the point I touched last year, and I would like to bring it here again just to remember. The truth is, when we compare Portugal with, for instance, Marseille, we see in Marseille a much more developed ecosystem, where you see that the share connection between several geographies is much more even distributed. We see Portugal still quite dependent of all the routes going through Spain. Of course, with new cables, this graphic will for sure change in the near future. I put here some points. I will not go to all of these because we would stay without topic for our discussion. So let's keep it, and I will just we'll share the presentation if you want to really then explore. Basically, it's just a main idea. Carrier neutral facilities are really mandatory, are in my point of view, what can really be the cornerstone to support developing cables, developing digital transition, in all the evolution of the digital economy. The idea of bringing more and more providers to interconnect and peer and cross-connect in our location really is beneficial for all the geographies that we serve. And I put there in the last point, easy and cost-effective access to international submarine cable landing stations, and also for developing of new cables, touching a little bit on the regulation. So I already mentioned geographical location, the peering, and the internet. Equinix contribution. So we have several new models for terminating cables. I will not go into the details, but the idea not only terminating, but giving that ecosystem, because 90% of the internet is really based on cross connections and not public or IX platforms. So that's where I believe we have developed a very dense environment in Lisbon that is able to really serve the needs for any future growth. Edge-based open cable systems, something that we are already developing in Genoa and Bordeaux, and also now in Nigeria, again, Ivory Coast and South Africa. And the Cloud Exchange Fabric, a solution more with a fast time to market that also will contribute for sure on the development of an acceleration on the interconnection side. Equinix, I don't know if you knew it, but it stands for Equality, Neutrality, Internet Exchange. We have currently approximately 10,000 customers. We are delivering 6 nines in power availability, and we are 260 on the Fortune 500 companies. In Portugal, we have currently 12 submarine cables that go directly to our data center in LS1. We have more than 50 networks currently present and exchanging traffic there. And of course, presenting one of the best global SLAs in class to all our customers. I had put also a visual of what is LS1. And in first hand, I would like to, I don't have a slide for it yet, but just announce that we are launching now LS2, so the second data center of Equinix in Portugal. And the truth is we will not double but triple the capacity that we are delivering to the country. So really making all the set and everything ready for any future growth. I would not only Portugal has all this capacity, but in a recent event that George mentioned this morning, I just put a slide here that I would like to touch. There we go. So most of the people that follow the submarine cable world know what happened on 4th of March at 5 o'clock. So basically 4 of the main cables serving Africa that were crossing through a seabed canyon just were cut almost at the same time. We are talking about multiple undersea cable failure in the region. So WAX, Main1, SAT3, and ACE. West and Central Africa countries were most impacted. A total of 13 countries were severely impacted. It was a major subsea incident, and immediately from Equinix, we had a major response. And the truth is, in Equinix, we activate immediately the crisis response team and working close with all the customers, with George, with most of people that some of them are in this room. And we were able to perform something that number probably doesn't translate the entire size, but the idea, it gives you an idea. So perform more than 100 new fiber cross connections in a record time, meaning that we were able to really reduce significantly the downtime experience by millions of users in Africa. And this shows, of course, the capacity that we have in Equinix really to help all our partners to really go through any incident. But in my last sentence, I believe is the most important. It really showcases the importance of Portugal on Africa connectivity and our key role on critical events. That's something that from Portugal we are able to do, and we are able because we have developed this very robust and diverse infrastructure that really make us proud and can help really Africa to thrive. Of course, very proud of Equinix, and well, some of them are here, Monica and Paul, that were really amazing and are solving the problem to all our African friends. And with this, I would thank you all so much, and I hope you enjoy the panel. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Carlos? Come on, guys. Come on. Emmanuel, I mean, what is the difference? I mean, you're in charge of Italy, and we're talking about about the Mediterranean here as well. What is the big difference? I mean, and then I'll come back to you between the difference between Marseille and Portugal, and I'll tell you exactly what the answer is. So, Emmanuel, on Equinix in Italy, huge amount of cables are coming into Sicily. I mean, and Genoa, we know. And how can you, from an Equinix point of view, can serve best your customers? Stay away from your Facebook. And my daughters do the same, so I know.
First of all, something which is impressive is what just said Carlos, meaning it's not because you are not near to countries that you cannot help countries if you have any outage. And this is a perfect example of what just showed Carlos to us, meaning whatever we are doing, we are able to shortcut issues in our countries. And this is what we can do from Portugal. Obviously, it has been a perfect example. And it will be the same thing from Italy, being able to support long-range issue coming, and then we'll be able to support them from Europe. And this is where Europe will serve more and more as a supportive countries to all around Africa and maybe Middle East and maybe even for South America. So this is the very first point I'm saying, which is very interesting. Second one is Portugal and Italy. I'm seeing it in between of Marseille. I'm seeing it as capabilities for us to serve more and more new needs. Carlos spoke about fast-rising African continents as new digital needs. So Portugal is much more ahead of Italy on this, and really because it started far away before, and it's already serving a lot of countries. Demonstration was just given by this. You have a big heritage, it has an impact on millions of people, and Portugal can support this. Same thing will be developed in Italy too, on the obviously East African coast, and maybe Middle East and going to Far East. But I'm seeing a lot of analogy. So whatever you are deploying here, Carlos and whoever here in Portugal, we are following you. So it's a good best practice we'd like to reproduce in Italy.
Merci. Thank you. So you're actually the master. And what is the difference? You talked about Marseille. Marseille is big, and from its legacy from I know, and I'm an old Orange guy, so trust me, Marseille was the holy grail for us in the old times. When 15 years ago I left. That's long. I'm in the business. But what for you is the big differentiator?
Yeah, I believe there are at least 2 or 3 topics that are important when we discuss Marseille. One point is they start earlier promoting, and they really have made quite an impressive promotion of that particular region. Second point, cables used to come, and if you remember CMU-3 crosses from Japan.
I'm from that time.
You are from that
time. I'm from the top 14, transatlantic. That's where I come from.
Absolutely. And we see CMU-3 really crossing all the Mediterranean and coming to Lisbon. And from CMU-4 onwards, they really end in Marseille. That was one result of course, the promotion of the place. The second point, no doubt, terrestrial routes also were extremely developed during that times, making currently the connection between East and West quite easy to make using 2 main corridors, one of them being between Barcelona and Bilbao. And you have the second one that is Marseille-Genoa, so the both of them crossing to Bordeaux. So really you now have 2 terrestrial alternatives that have capacity, that had strong investments during these last years, and with geo-redundancy because you are in different countries. So what can we do, seeing it from Portugal? No doubt, making the world to know us. I believe that's the first and most important point, is really show what Portugal have been made for almost now 3 centuries, reaching the 3rd century, and the importance that can be for all the new markets. I believe if we are able to articulate well that message to the world, we will see even more, because we didn't make so much noise, and the truth is there are cables entering and interconnecting.
Start doing it.
Imagine if we
start doing it.
Yeah, we need to.
Yeah,
that's why we call you.
For me, the big difference between Marseille and Sintra or Lisbon or Cascais is very simple: people, food. And the French food is one of the best in the world. I mean, Emmanuel, he's from France. He can, but he lives in Italy. So there is you made your choice, eh? So did I. That's why we both are not Italian, but we live in Italy. That's why. No, but, and the weather, and, that's the big difference. So make noise and make more noise. All right?
We will.
Okay. So let's move into it. We're going to explore some trends and challenges and strategic opportunities we see, as well the legal opportunities and challenges, ladies, the challenges, licenses of the landing submarine cables here in Portugal, and also an outlook on the submarine builders and vendors. So on the infrastructure, what do we see? So, José, if I may come with you, and I would love to hear your opening statement. What are the current market trends you see and challenges, and which strategic opportunities do we see in the regional subsea ecosystem? What do you see here? Tell us, enlighten us. It works.
Opportunities. First one, I'd like to say that the role that Marseille and Portugal are playing, they are not competing, they are complementing. And because we are talking about Africa, Portugal has a very good geographical situation. It's sometimes I feel more African country than European country. I'm sorry to say that, but that's the true. The first and the only coaxial cable between Europe and Southern Africa landing in Portugal, and I believe all the other ones to West Africa and South Africa always landing in Portugal. Why? Not because of the Portuguese themselves, but because of our geographic situation. And also because 10 million people does not justify in traffic a submarine cable between Portugal and any country in Africa. Besides, we have very good relations and important traffic with the Portuguese-speaking countries in Africa. I'd like to remind you the before TAT-14, in Intelsat, it happens in the 80s, more and less, a very interesting project, satellite project promoted by Intelsat. I believe the name was Rascom or something like that. And it was very surprising for ourselves to see the needs, because every African country was giving their inputs in terms of traffic, and the majority of international traffic from Africa, in Africa, was from Africa to Europe, not regional traffic in Africa. And that was very astonished for everybody. But still, that exists. Now you have submarine cables from Europe to Africa, and some of them are promoting interconnection between African countries. I'm not aware, but all the international traffic from Africa, I believe Europe is still the major consumer or destination.
Yeah.
Other aspects, there was never a submarine cable, direct submarine cable between Africa and North America. I believe that didn't happen and won't happen so soon. That means Brazil or Europe can play some kind of a transit traffic between Africa and North America. And Angola did that through Angola cables, and Portugal is doing that for years, to transit or hard patching circuits, or perhaps not more, but perhaps in terms of switch traffic. This is still a demand. There is an opportunity for business between all, and everybody will win. And also data centers. Data centers now, they will be developed in Africa for sure, but in the meanwhile, there are data centers in Brazil and data centers in Europe and Portugal that can play also that role. What will be the future and the opportunity? I should say that at least we could keep providing good conditions to African countries to improve those. For the future, I believe African countries will interconnect directly to United States and Asian countries, and but new business, new services, new things will appear, and once again, I believe Europe and Portugal can play a role on that. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Arthur, from your point of view, what market trends do you see, and what are the challenges? Opportunities, we know. It's huge.
Yeah.
It's
for sure there's a lot of opportunities, and we touch a few of the points already, even when discussing about Marseille compared to Portugal. Marseille, I believe that one of the things that they added is because they start promoting before, because they have a model that is pretty easy to land a cable there, because everything is treated on a very simple and fast way. Of course, that makes the difference. And because of the traffic from Asia that connects there better than ourselves. In terms of Africa, I fully agree that Portugal is in a much better position because there's more activity and more countries on west coast of Africa than east coast. So the traffic, of course, makes all the sense. The problem was that in the past, UK was always the preferred option compared to Portugal. Even if we have a lot of Portuguese-spoken countries in Africa, and ourselves, Tangala Cables, we try to be one of the CPLPs operator connecting all of that points and trying to have a position there. But anyway, the majority of the traffic went to UK. And one of the problems why that happened was because Africa did not add exchange points. So the traffic that I was changing from Angola to my neighbor Namibia, I was changing London. So I went my traffic to London, London it changed and then goes down, they reply, and was back and forth. And it was crazy. Now we could see the full ecosystem in Africa being developed. I experienced the data centers and the traffic being more local. But of course, all of the feeds of the traffic are still Europe to Africa, as Latin America suffers the same from the west to Latin America. And that need will not stop in the future and will still be there. Of course, then we need to gain some relevance when compared to London. And I was happy to see that now with the cable cuts, we have been able to do it a bit of it by pushing some of the traffics. But we need to guarantee that it's not only on emergency times, but we have the full conditions to do that. So we are competitive, we have good quality, we have the interconnections here, we have the data centers and so on, so that we could even, and we have the content also here, instead of having the need of them going up, and then we could do it. And when we do it, Portugal could become relevant. I was, remember one of the cases, we closed for one of the hyperscalers now doing this cable cuts problem, that we made a solution that was South Africa to Angola, Angola to Fortaleza, and Fortaleza to Lisbon. And this looked like a crazy path. The truth is that you are increasing probably 20 to 30 milliseconds more only, but you have been able to make the traffic from South Africa because it was only Kiano, so we needed some protections, and we have been able to make it together with Sax Plaza Link in this case, and again terminating in Portugal. So if we have the conditions here to develop, then all of that traffic could be aggregated here from Africa, from Latin America. We don't have direct connectivity to the West. I would love to have. We had it in the past with Columbus 3. I believe there's space to have. Now Nuven will be there. And all of these pieces together will help Portugal to grow in terms of importance for the future.
Okay, thank you. Legal opportunities and challenges of landing station cables in Portugal. Here we go. Here we go. Now delving into those opportunities and challenges associated with the landing submarine cables. The role of the regulator. That's one. And licenses. That's two. Floor is yours.
Thank you. So the good things. Well, it was good that actually you were mentioning Marseille and the single point of contact that they have there and what we are doing, because I don't know, well, this is public knowledge. There's an order from last year, the end of last year, from the government that stated some guidelines that are meant to promote the landing in Portugal and to help with those issues, namely the licensing and the regulator. Obviously, there are the conditions that everyone can see, which is obviously we have a wonderful coast. The sea is good to drill and to techniques like HDD and other types of drilling. But from a legal perspective, there have some steps have been taken, and the government is really willing to facilitate the landing in Portugal. So this badge has direct orientations to certain public entities, namely the regulator, the DGRM, which is the central entity when we speak about licensing of the infrastructure. Our regulator is ANACOM. And it also has two airs because they regulate the gas pipelines and electricity, and there are also connections. And there's also TISEP, the entity that has to promote Portugal outside and is doing the job that you said, please do that. So they do have an order to do that. But to be a bit more specific, so the idea is under the order is going to be better explained in other statutes. I hope very soon. We have this, we had elections. Nobody was expecting them, so obviously this delayed some of the measures. But I hope this is going to now resume. One of the things is basically to have a corridor for the cables and have a better legal regime for those cables that are going to land there. Another thing is ANACOM is required to have more information on the existing cables and the opportunities for other investors. And basically the idea is to create the entire ecosystem that it's more favorable to all investors. So I would say that we are on the right track. Let's see how long does this takes. Well, from Europe, we also have some good news because there are, I don't know, recently, probably everyone knows this, but just for those who don't, there are some documents that are addressing the digital needs of Europe. One of the things is the regulation on gigabyte networks, and it's very important because obviously, there is information related to this that it's important for the investors and information that has to be kept secure, so to say. So I would say Portugal is on the right track. Obviously, there are challenges. The licensing is one of the challenges, but there are other good things. Let's say, I think the regulator and the licensing entities, in particular the GRM and APA, which is the environmental agency that obviously has a very relevant play, they have learned from experience. There are cables that have been landing in the last years, so there is an experience built, a recent experience. So, and I think there is a governmental or a state will to help. So we have the ecosystem to help and to improve the conditions for the investment, I would say.
So how much time is lost? Because we were just talking about, we're looking at the competitive edge here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Of Lisbon, Portugal. So the awareness is finally there. I mean, and even yes, the European papers, but you can have a different interpretation sometimes of those papers. Let's be honest. And that is where you come in to make sure that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and Nadia as well. But still, I mean, guys, come on, we know what's going on.
Well, yeah, I mean, there was a period, like the winter period, let's say, of cables. Then for some time, nothing happened. But then, fortunately, everything started to moving, particularly with the Ella Link, and they also helped to set up the conditions here, and with the public entities also helped raising awareness. And there are very good people at the regulator, at the GRM, at APA that really want to help. Obviously, there are adjustments to the law that have to be made, and some have already been made. No, but to be fair, some have already been made, and other are expected. So I think that there's, and in particular, when there's goodwill from everyone, things move. So,
but until that period, until that time, right?
Obviously, it takes time.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Nadia. Your take on it. It is on.
Now, yes. Okay. So, of course, that from a national perspective, there are some good news, as the order that Marilia was talking about. But we also have to look at this from an European perspective, because Portugal is within Europe. And what we have is that although we have this specific order issued from or by the government, the regulators still aren't very aware of their part and how this all falls into how this all interplays with the regulatory framework that we have. So if you look at the BEREC launched at the end of the year, they launched a paper that was subject to a public consultation regarding the licensing of submarine cables. And what you saw from 20 responding national regulatory authorities was that there is a major discrepancy in how the regulatory framework works within all the EU countries. So Portugal is one of the best examples that we have there. But when you have to think that, okay, so Portugal is one country that then interconnects with other countries. So you have to have an harmonized licensing framework, and you have to have an harmonized licensing framework, not only in what concerns the telco sector, but also the energy, the environment, other sea activities. So there's still a lot of work to be done there. So this is a challenge from the legal perspective. And there's also another major challenge that we are not addressing here. It has been addressed in the morning sessions in a brief way, but that's security. And so we are discussing, there's a major issue now being addressed at the EU level, which is data sovereignty. And this affects directly submarine cables.
We need another 16 hours to discuss this, right?
And this and this has also been a concern, because we're trying to foster investment, and we are trying to attract investment to have more of these infrastructures, namely here in Portugal. But what we are seeing is that the EU is being more strict on foreign direct investment. So the rules are going to change in this field. So we're going to have some novelties there. And how are you expected to attract investment? Because this can continue to be a state-driven investment sector, how it has been for the last year, forever. So how are you going to attract investment? And Europe does not have the capacity to keep funding these infrastructures as it has been done or is doing until now. So how are we to attract investment, to have more infrastructures? But at the same time, we are being very self-conscious about data sovereignty, and where is data going to be kept, and who has access, and who controls what traffic goes or circles.
And define those situations. We can talk even longer, but an investor, and trust me, I talk to a lot of them, they just want stability, they want security, and guys, we want a return on investment. And if you keep the time in really, discuss it, we go somewhere else. Very simple,
But
there is, of course, the point on the GDPR, of course, and on the data security, which is completely different from the US than it is in Europe. So, there are similarities, but there is a difference. So once that is not solved, trust me, investments from the US will stay in the US, and they will go over the Pacific with the money.
And not only that, the question of data sovereignty is not, I'm not talking about from the GDPR and from the GDPR perspective, but I'm also talking about it from the resilience and critical infrastructure perspective, because that's what's been on the table right now. So if these are critical assets, who do I want to own them? Who do I want to control them?
Who decides that?
Yeah, so
Lilia, you want to join in? Or are you sick of the topic already?
No, I think, well,
give some light. Where should we go? And how can you support these guys?
there are all these concerns that Nadia is raising. And obviously what you're saying is there are different rules in Europe and in the United States as regards data protection and cybersecurity, but there is a certain, how can I say, normalization of the rules. So to say, because as the European Union, what they have done with these rules is somehow they've managed to export them. So it will take time, but things are developing. I know it's going to happen the same with the AA Act, for instance. So, but I mean, for me, at least, or as I see it, the main point is whether it is easy to come to Portugal and have a place where I can ask a license and quickly get it. And if there's any issue, try to solve it. If this place doesn't work, go to somewhere else. This is the point.
Stability. That is
Yes.
stability.
And I think we do have that stability. First, you have an entity where you can go. This entity, which is the GRM, this entity makes the interface with APA. So all the C part is more or less solved. Obviously, it's not straightforward in the sense that you have to analyze the place, you have to see the project. So there's stability. Then there are the land part. So even if there are all these concerns, and I understand them, and there will always be concerns, but from that perspective, I think what we have is enough to give that stability, and it's going to improve. So for me, this is the...
Okay, fair enough. José? Do I have to throw another curveball, or are you enjoying it?
I'm in the mood, don't worry. Just to complement, one thing is the one-stop shopping, the easy licensing, and let me recall that was present for the first time 5 years ago. We took some time to implement that, but now it seems is in cruise speed, and that's good. But and one was a different measure that the country could take to attract, to show internationally that this country is a friendly country for submarine cables. Also, in that perspective, we launched the idea of having protection zones for submarine cables. And you mentioned corridors, but please avoid to mention the term corridor because ICPC doesn't love that term.
They don't like
but
it.
Protection zones, it works. And those protection zones are zones reserved exclusively for submarine cables. It's a gray area. You don't know how many cables are there. You just know perhaps they will have some submarine cables there. That, in terms of security, is very important. And also those protection zones will deserve a special attention from the authorities in terms of supervision and to see who is going to cross those areas, who is there, and so on. I don't know if the limit of those protection zones are already established, but for myself, I asked 2,000 meter depth. Perhaps it's too much, I recognize, but will make some difference. And those together with the protection zones under oversight, surveillance, and so on, and easy license, that's for sure will make a difference internationally, and perhaps will make much more easy the work for attracting submarine cables to Portugal. Thank you.
How do you handle your security, Carlos? How do you handle your security?
No,
How can these people go to
no,
bed?
even before the security, that part of the protection areas was really something that could accelerate attractiveness of our market. You told 5 years. I recall then just after ACE, we start discussing, and ACE was 2012. 12 approximately. We start discussing about the licensing and permitting process in Portugal that were close to impossible or take 3 years. After that, it came main one. It crossed the same nightmare. And I believe the first one that had more or less, so it went for the 2 PEM and it went directly on DGRM, was really L-Link. And from that moment on, we see a real shift. I hope that we were able to really duplicate that success cases and show to the world that they already exist, because that's an important
proof of concept.
Exactly.
Now, right?
No, and establish a commitment, because that's the part that doesn't exist. If someone that wants to invest in Portugal knows that it will take him, I don't know, 3 months to put a cable, okay, it's acceptable. If they don't know absolutely nothing, it's really a question of luck. then they will not come. They will choose other locations. And
But
we saw that happen.
Portugal is a good example. If you compare with other or US.
Well, we start speaking about Marseille.
Marseille.
So I will compare with the best, not the worst.
It's a special case because
But I also want to be a special
Because it's French, right?
Yes.
No, but it's really the right approach. And like you said, a lot of work, a lot of good work had been done all over these last years. And I hope that could help Nuven to land faster. I hope that could bring others to look at Portugal with the idea of being able really to be received in an easy way, in a friendly way. I think that is absolutely mandatory. Well, cable security, you talk about security. We discussed this morning. Indeed, there is more and more that idea of, okay, the cables down there, are they safe? Aren't they safe? We see Russian ships, we see, I don't know, Martians and so on and so on. So sometimes it's really hard. It's really hard to guess. I have my own opinion. It's far more easier to damage or in any intentional way a cable when in earth than under the sea.
Oh,
That's for
yes.
sure.
Oh,
That's
yes.
completely, it's impossible to discuss. And even on that part, we have a long way to go, because even the ducts and beach personnel, all along the way are still not having the alarms they should, are still not having. So there is a lot, but it's not Portugal. That is not the case of Portugal. That is all over the world, and it's being more and more discussed. I believe the access to the physical infrastructure currently, where we need to first start protecting is really on the terrestrial side. I'm not so worried about the wet side, really. That's my personal opinion.
Okay, but you like to swim, right?
Absolutely. I will protect them on the sea.
All right. And if we have any issues, I mean, we have the two ladies with the two respective companies to support and help you, of course, right? In any legal matter, right? Okay, closing round, guys. Are you still with us? Oh, you see? But that's the first row, eh? I mean, normally in the classroom, you would be sitting in the back and everybody would be on their phones, not listening anymore, you know? Anyway, closing round, guys, come on. Maria, you're the first closing round. What scoping the future? What should we look for? What can we expect? Tell us.
Well,
Enlighten us.
No, I'm not at all. Really, I'm not. I think we do have challenging times ahead, because all of the cybersecurity and data things that Nadia told, the AI, there are a lot of challenges, of course, but at least from my perspective as lawyer and helping operators to work in Portugal and in other Portuguese African countries, I think things are really improving. There's a real need both in Portugal and in Africa for this connectivity is essential, especially in Africa for different reasons, but in Europe more for sovereignty reasons, for instance. So I think we have a lot of business coming, a lot of good things coming ahead with a lot of challenges, obviously, but those challenges are let's overcome. And at least in Portugal, we are on the right track. And this is why I try to show this idea that this is a good place to land it and to make business.
Okay, thank you. Artur?
Well, I'm not very positive about the future, of course. I believe there's a massive wave coming along in terms of traffic, in terms of data centers usage, and so on. So in terms of Portugal, we need to be prepared to it, to take advantage of the energy, of the green energy that we have locally, and so on, and having all the features, not only in terms of landing, but also in terms of terrestrial connectivity and all of the necessary steps that we need to make so that we could be competitive on that. Because Africa is there, as someone told in the morning. So it's 1.4 billion population, is growing. The connectivity and the coverage is still very low. I believe you touched like 39%, so it needs to increase. It will increase for sure. And if Portugal wants to catch a part of that traffic that is coming from there, it needs to be prepared for that. Yeah. but
And you can support with
and I
that.
could support, of course. Happy to do it.
Okay, thank you. Nadia?
So as it has been mentioned here, uh, abundantly, Portugal does really present an excellent geographic location for landing submarine cables and for promoting and fostering EU-Africa connectivity. Despite what I have said, we don't have this dark scenario in terms of regulation at the national level. But we do need, for example, Portugal could be a best practice to be taken into consideration by other European countries so that we can have more harmonization at the regulatory level. And Portugal could also work closely together with African authorities, for example, in order to help promote them, stabilize their own regulatory framework, which is even more dispersed than the European one. And also, cooperation is also necessary in order to navigate this intricate geopolitical issue that is certain to hinder investment if we keep pushing too hard on this restrictions on foreign investment. We have to find balance between protecting national critical assets, but also not demoting investors from other geographies, because we do need the money.
José?
Two things. First, I would like not being Portugal a junction of submarine cables. I prefer that being Portugal a data hub. That means we'll have to have submarine cables and data storage. That, if not only landing submarine cables here, does not bring so much value to the country. The second one is Portugal was always available, and I do believe that will be available to be a kind of a revolving door of traffic from Africa to Europe and other continents, and that we love to play that role, and we are very capable to do this, and this is an asset for the country too. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Famous last words, Carlos.
Well, fully in line with what José Barros just said, I believe we were very successful on building that data highway to Africa and to several locations around the world. Even with all the barriers and difficulties and the timely processes, the truth is we have won that battle and we can improve for sure, and we are doing it. The second part that is really becoming from a gateway to a hub, we discussed that 3 years ago.
Yes.
If you remember, that was the note on the closing session. And I was under the impression that we were on the plane, already at V1 rolling, but no lift. And we are still having difficulties really to lift on this part that is really bringing the content here, really processing it here, and from here serving other geographies. Like I was saying, bringing a fiber pair, a subsea system with 12 pairs that basically just enter here, and you have 12 interconnections, and 2 to Frankfurt, 3 to Paris, and 1 to UK. It really doesn't bring us so much value, and we have so many competitive centers and capacity, and we have all the other ecosystem that if we are able really to build capacity to serve future demand on computing and storage and all that part, I believe it'd be extremely positive for Portugal and also to serve Africa. And we are not even touching the topic of AI and all the topics that would really change the entire equation, because the demand would be huge, and we are not yet even prepared to receive large footprints in Portugal. We don't have it. We don't have capacity, and that is why I believe it's the missing link. I truly believe we are doing the right thing. There are several other players looking at the market and really stepping in, and we have the conditions. I believe we check all the boxes. So I believe it's a common effort between us all really to make it happen. One way is really to make noise, like you said, and I would like to finish thanking CC community and the summit really for all your help on making noise and bringing Portugal to another level. Thank you from my side.
No, thank you, but I'm not here for that. I'm just here for the
For the good web.
You know what I'm here for, right? No, kidding. No, thank you so much for your nice words. I'm more than happy to provide the platform because I think it's needed, and we from Care Community are really happy to invest in that one as well. But we need you and all the partners here around to work together and to make it happen. And we will. I'm stubborn like that, right? Are we? Are we? Okay, last quick question over there. Thank you, sir.
It's not a question. It's just a defense of the honor. I'm the regulator. I'm sorry. So don't throw anything at me. Now, just to say a couple of things. First of all, I really hope that there will be some wine or some sparkling wine during the coffee break because we have to share. I never 20 years of regulation, never heard lawyers talking so good about regulation and regulators and national regulation. Thank you very much for that. But anyway, a couple of things. First,
It's unique in Europe. Trust me, I know.
only Europe? I'm amazed. No, just a couple of things. First, it's wonderful hearing so much optimism about the possibilities of the Portuguese economy on this field. I joined José Barros on hoping that we will be a data hub. Obviously, as a regulator for communications, we are worried about the cables and the communications, but we look at that as the infrastructure that will allow us to do much more. We try to do our best in regulation. We are trying to continue the work of ANACOM that José Barros left behind, and you know that is extremely dynamic. So we'll continue to do that, definitely. But you also know that we have the Brussels factor and many things are happening. Just for my sake, listen at all the interventions and try to realize how many things you ask from us. So you're asking from us to be stable, to be resilient, to take care of the security of data, to take care of the security of the infrastructure, to be what more? To be like 10.
And we only started. So
Every time I sit at the board, I have to think of all of this at the same time, but we'll do our best. Thank you very much to everyone. Thank you.
Can I just answer?
Yeah, please.
It's not us, it's Brussels. Well, actually, ANACOM does have a lot of competencies, so to say. So it's space, it's within the DSA, it is in telecom. So, I mean, you're asking for it.
Mirror, mirror on the wall. Huh? Thank you so much. No, really cool that you made this comment. So, Carlos, thank you so much for the session. Thank you, Equinix, for supporting us in this session. I hope you liked it. And I mean, in half an hour, we'll have 20 minutes already, right? We have another session, and that will be the last one of the day. But I am so happy and so proud to have these submatter experts here on my panel. I thank you all so much. Aurelia, my friend Arthur, how many panels did we do? A zillion, right? A few years we go back. Nadia, thank you so much. Joshua, thank you. And Carlos, always a pleasure. Thank you so much. And thank you. And I'll see you in 20 minutes.